Good afternoon, 8x1. I hope you are doing well. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's reading lesson and that you were able to find something to read and lose yourself in it for an hour. There is, especially in these times of lockdown, no better way to escape to somewhere else than through a book. Now, for today, we are going to wrap up in a way, the unit of work we've been doing on war poetry and rhetoric. Now, when I say we're wrapping it up, we're not really leaving it all behind. What we're doing is actually taking a step backwards in time. In future weeks, we're going to be engaging with something that I quite find exciting. An older text, an older story that is still steeped in war and violence and rhetoric. Of a very different type. And this is sort of bringing us halfway there, from World War I back to 1066. Now, when I say 1066, you should be familiar with that date, I hope. It's the Battle of Hastings. So let's turn to the document that's attached to this team's assignment, and let's have a look at what William had to say. Be ye the avengers of noble blood. Now, the bit at the top here just puts you within a context. Where is this speech coming out of? So I'll read it with you. William the Conqueror, be ye the avengers of noble blood for the Battle of Hastings on the 14th of October, 1066. In 1051, William, Duke of Normandy, visited his cousin, Edward the Confessor, the King of England. Edward had no children, and William sought the right to the throne when Edward died. But it was the Earl Harold of Wessex who was elected king upon Edward's death in 1066. William, also known as William the Conqueror, doesn't say it here, but also known as William the Bastard, then invaded England with his army, defeating and killing Harold II at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. On the morning of that historic conflict, William reportedly roused his troops to battle with this speech. Although several medieval narratives recount the events of the battle, they were not recorded immediately, casting doubt on their historical authenticity. It's very unlikely that William actually said what we're about to read here. He may very well have given a speech, but considering the difficulty in having historical documents survive across time like this, and how people tend to write things down quite late after the events, a lot of what's happened at Hastings is ambiguous to us. However, this remains a very good speech for our purposes. So let's read it now. If we were in the classroom, I'd get you to read it out in parts, but sadly, we'll just have to settle for reading it together in this video. So please, read along with me. Normans, bravest of nations, I have no doubt of your courage, and none of your victory, which never by any chance or obstacle escaped your efforts. If indeed you had, once only, failed to conquer, there might be a need now to inflame your courage by exhortation. But your native spirit does not require to be roused. Bravest of men, what could the power of the Frankish king effect with all his people, from Lorraine to Spain, against Hastings my predecessor? What he wanted of France he took, and gave to the king only what he pleased. What he had, he held as long as it suited him, and relinquished it only for something better. Did not Rollo, my ancestor, founder of our nation, with our fathers conquer at Paris the king of the Franks in the heart of his kingdom? Nor had the king of the Franks any hope of safety until he humbly offered his daughter and possession of the country, which, after you, is called Normandy. Did not your fathers capture the king of the Franks at Rouen, and keep him there until he restored Normandy to Duke Richard, then a boy, with this condition, that, at every conference between the king of France and the Duke of Normandy, the duke should wear his sword, while the king should not be permitted to carry a sword, nor even a dagger. This concession your fathers compelled the great king to submit to, as binding forever. Did not the same duke lead your fathers to Mermande, at the foot of the Alps, and enforce submission from the lord of the town, his son-in-law, to his own wife, the Duke's daughter. Nor was it enough for you to conquer men. He conquered the devil himself, with whom he wrestled, cast down, and bound him with his hands behind his back, and left him a shameful spectacle to angels. But why do I talk of former times? Did not you, in our own time, engage the Franks at Mortemer? Did not the Franks prefer flight to battle, and use their spurs? While you, Ralph, the commander of the Franks, having been slain, reaped the honour and the spoil as the natural result of your usual success. Ha! Let any one of the English whom, 100 times, our predecessors, both Danes and Normans, have defeated in battle, come forth and show that the race of Rollo ever suffered defeat from his time until now, and I will withdraw conquered. Is it not, therefore, shameful that a people accustomed to be conquered, a people ignorant of war, a people even without arrows, should proceed in order of battle against you, my brave men? Is it not a shame that King Harold, perjured as he was in your presence, should dare to show his face to you? It is amazing to me that you have been allowed to see those who, by a horrible crime, beheaded your relations and Alfred my kinsman, and that their own heads are still on their shoulders. Raise your standards, my brave men, and set neither measure nor limits to your merited rage. May the lightning of your glory be seen, and the thunders of your onset heard from east to west, and be ye the avengers of noble blood. Now, next week we will be looking at a wider range of rhetorical speeches, of war speeches, of people speaking to rally troops, warriors, fighters, people to endure, to fight, to kill, or to be killed. And you will have a chance, in fact, to use those as an example for you to write your own heroic speech. Now that's going to happen next week. To help prepare you for that, and for today's lesson, you'll be working with this speech, and you can see on the next slide that there's a worksheet for you to complete. So let's turn to that now. So I'm asking you to complete this worksheet, and the reason for this is that by picking apart, as it were, William's speech, you are finding the techniques that he's using, which you'll then be able to borrow and carry forward into the writing of your own speech. And I'll help you recognize these elements in the other speeches we're going to look at next week. So what do you need to do? Well, for the first paragraph, the shorter one, summarize it in your own words. Short summary, 1 or 2 sentences or bullet points even. And then within that paragraph, find examples of the rhetorical devices that he uses. So this is looking back at what we did before half term, which is what appeals to ethos, logos, and pathos, morals, logic, and emotion can you find? Where does he set himself up, or his warriors up, as shining examples of people? Where does he use logic, step by step, reasoned arguments for doing a thing? And where does he go for the heart, for the passion, for anger or fear or outrage or anything like that? So you do that for paragraph 1, and then you do it again for paragraph 2, the longer one. Summarize it. You got a little bit more space because it's a longer bit to summarize. And again, try and find examples within the text of these rhetorical devices. You'll find that it's been highlighted to help you with that, but there are more examples in the text than just what's been highlighted. And that's your work for today. Once it's completed, please upload the completed worksheet to Teams. And that's it for today, 8x1. I look forward to seeing your work, and I look even more forward to seeing what you're able to produce next week when we look at a wider range of heroic speeches and you start creating your own and performing your own. This will lead us into whatever happens come March 8th. After this week, we have one more week where we know we're studying at home. But after that, we are going to start returning to school. The full details are still to be released by the head teacher, but I'm very much looking forward to returning to the classroom with you. And I hope you're looking forward to it as well. But for now, keep healthy, keep safe, and goodbye.